If it seems like it's too easy, then it probably is. There are no shortcuts. Anything really worth doing, something that's really going to make a difference, it's not going to be easy.
What is up, Mentors Collective? Welcome to this episode. We are filming on the 30th of December, right before the new year, and wanted to bring you a really special episode with one of the guys who I've known for a while. He is a cardiothoracic surgeon, and on this episode, I really just wanted to start 2021 off on a really good note with some inspiration, some motivation, and help you really get your head right, get your heart right going into the new year. So with that being said, I really wanted to welcome this guest with open arms. I think you're going to find a lot of great value from him. There's a lot of people online right now who are, trying to be motivational people, trying to inspire you, but this guy's really done it. He's had a really unique journey, and, the proof is in the pudding. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Welcome, Dr. Brian Lima.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
A pleasure to have you. So just kind of to kick things off here, why don't you talk a little bit about your journey? Where did you come from, and where are you now? Obviously, you're a heart surgeon, so that's amazing. But would love to hear the journey.
Sure. So I grew up in a lower income household, immigrant family from Cuba, with no role models to speak of, sort of in the professional sense. So all I really had to go on was just a hard work ethic. And kind of scratched and clawed my way to try to get into the best schools, to get into medical school, and then finally 10 years of training to become a heart surgeon. And today, I'm very proud to have been the first surgeon to have successfully done heart transplant on Long Island. So we launched the first program here. And also this year, wrote the book Heart to Beat, which is really kind of, I think of it as a inspirational memoir. It's a little bit of everything, it's autobiographical, but it's really just telling my story to help others, no matter what walk of life, to realize that everyone has the potential to do great things. It's just a matter of putting in the work and the time and having the resilience. So that's, I think, sums up kind of my journey thus far.
Well, amazing journey. And obviously you ended up in a pretty good spot. And now, since you've had all the success, you've been through this, I'm sure you've learned not only a lot of personal development tricks and learned a lot about resilience along the way. And now you're finally able to give back and really teach the new generation, what you've learned, and hopefully translate some of that value to them. So for those of the people who are listening, who are probably aspiring entrepreneurs or successful business owners, people who really want to better themselves, that's why they're listening to this show. Where do you start? I mean, coming from, where you came from, where did you find the inner drive, that fire that really brought you to where you are? And how can other people find the same thing?
I think first it was realizing that you don't have to be special. You don't have to have God-given talent, natural talent to be a genius or an athlete, have natural athleticism to be successful in whatever endeavor you want to aspire to shoot for. And I think once you actually embrace that concept, that it's really all about who puts in the work, the time that sticks with it. When you start to realize that things really aren't as bad as they are, it's just a process. And I think what holds most of us back, I would say, is two things: is fear of failure. We're so deathly afraid of messing up. What are people going to think? What are people going to say? And then when we do mess up, things happen. There's no way you're going to get to any place worth getting to without running into some trouble along the way, setbacks and things like that. And I think it's how we handle those setbacks that sets people apart. It's the people that can actually withstand, those setbacks and get back on track. That, I think, if you can embrace and overcome those two things, I think really the sky's the limit. And most of us, myself included, are leaving so much on the table. So that's really the essential message that I want to get out there.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. Obviously that hits on a personal note as well. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I guess the overall theme here is resilience. It's really never a straight shot to the top. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to feel like a failure along the way. But I mean, the people who are successful have gone through the same thing, and they just kept pushing. They got up, overcome whatever obstacles that were put forth. So like you said, I mean, the fear of failure is a huge thing, especially once you're starting to have success and it starts to be expected of you and you do fail or you're nearing failure, how do you overcome that? What do you do to get around those feelings of inadequacy or that fear that you're going to be rejected or laughed at? What should people turn to?
I think there's no matter how bad something is, you no matter how complicated or what area of life we're talking about, I think it boils down to a fork in the road. You can either A, dwell on it, spin your wheels, relive that horrible thing, whatever that was, that failure, or take action, move forward. And this all really for me came to light doing heart transplant. And doing a heart transplant, and one in particular, the first one we did here, when I removed the old heart, it started to just spontaneously beat in my hands as I held it. And it was just something about seeing that. And I mean, think of what this heart's gone through, right? And it just does what it does. And I think if we did that, if we just owned what we can control and just did that to the best of our ability and just forget about all the other things that are outside of our sphere of influence and just really honed in on, okay, I'm going to do something. Whatever, this was bad, but I'm not going to just sit still. I have to keep moving. And to me, that's what it all boils down to. Just taking action, whatever it could be, a tiny, tiny step, but you have to keep moving. It's that when you just stop and dwell, that's when I think the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I've seen the most successful people that I've ever worked with, and they're people that have tunnel vision. They don't see their competition. They don't see the haters. They just focus on their craft and getting as good as they possibly can. And action, action, action. That's the common theme. And it can be tough, especially now with social media and stuff, looking at your competition. Always somebody smarter. There's always somebody who's living a better lifestyle. There's always somebody who's making more money. And letting that really affect you is what I think slows down a lot of progress.
Yeah.
So love the overarching theme, and it's probably a crazy perspective from your eyes as a heart surgeon, being so close to death and people nearing death. That at the level of value and gratitude for life and the actions that you take during life has to be a little bit different and unique for you. What is that like? I mean, you deal with people on a daily basis who could not wake up from surgery. Is there any kind of overarching theme that you've noticed, dealing with these people day in, day out?
Believe it or not, I think the same simple, straightforward philosophy applies. In my specific instance, the stakes are a bit higher. So, when I have a quote bad day at work, that means somebody has died. And that's pretty difficult, to say the least, to have to deal with. But again, it comes down to, okay, what am I going to do in that instance? If God forbid something like that happens, of course, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to learn, okay, what could I have done better? How could have this been prevented? And maybe for the next patient, not let that happen. But I also have a responsibility to that next patient that's counting on me to save their life, right? So I can't let that failure affect that. So it's that idea of, okay, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep beating. I'm going to keep taking that next step. I'm going to learn from it. I can't just throw in the towel and be like, all right, well, that's it. I guess I'm just going to, feel sorry for myself and call it quits. I mean, that's not an option. And I think what people have to embrace is not ever allowing that to be an option. Inaction is not an option. You have to keep moving. And that's what I do. Even in these high stakes types of situations that I deal with day in, day out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, as a heart surgeon, obviously you found your passion, you found something that probably fulfills you. I mean, you save lives every day. Not everybody has a chance to do that, especially as they're starting out. And that's not going to be everybody's calling, but it makes sense, obviously, why you're incentivized, especially not only financially, but the harder that you work, the more lives you're going to be able to save. It's just like, I mean, what a payoff. For the other people out here who are listening who maybe aren't directly saving lives, who need to reach a little farther for that motivation and to even figure out what their calling is and how to find it, do you have any insights there?
I think it's I want to say I sort of stumbled upon my calling. Maybe in that respect I was lucky, but I think everybody has something out there that they are going to be really passionate about and care about and want to do. And I think it's a matter of putting themselves in those positions. We all have some general inclination towards areas. Well, for example, I like math, I like science in high school, right? So I gravitated towards the sciences, and then it just sort of snowballed from there into the medical realm. And for some other people, it's different. It's the arts or literature or whatever it is. But I think you start with the broad strokes of things that interest you, and then you kind of keep honing down into what interests you even more and more. And I think a lot of people don't want to even take that step. They're like, oh, well, yeah, I can't, act in a play, or I'm never going to get it. I'm just going to do this other thing that I know I'm going to be miserable at, but I know it's safe, right? It's trying to find that path of certainty, to avoid, this is safe because I'm minimizing the risk of failure. Right. I could have said the same thing. I was like, heart surgeon? Are you crazy? There's no way. How? I can't do that. I mean, what if somebody sues me, or what if I let somebody die? I mean, I can. And you hear people say that. I mean, the moment you say, I want to do X, right? And in the book, I talk about that. Ask any little kid, 2-year-old or 3-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? They get like super excited. They like, oh yeah, I want to be an astronaut. Like nothing is off, limits, right? And it's finding that little kid inside all of us. What do you really, really want to do? And not being afraid to chase it is the key. And I think so many of us are afraid to even go down that road. Because, oh, what if I don't make it? I'm going to be a failure. People are going to know about it. All the I told you so's and stuff like that. That's where I think people just have to get, eliminate that sort of negative self-talk.
Yeah, and eliminate the self-talk coming in from outside.
Right.
Nobody wants to see you be more successful or happier than they are. It's
Yeah.
a weird trait of human nature, and you got to be able to tune it out. So awesome. Since we kind of brought up the book, Heart to Beat is the book. Would love to kind of discuss that for a second and unpack some of the main underlying themes, and what are some takeaways and points that people might be able to expect, and obviously we'll get into kind of where they can find it and some stuff like that later, but would love to hear about the book and what you can learn from it.
So I talk about through telling my own story of kind of how I progressed along in my career and development, what I learned, and I bulk it into this Heartway approach, where HEART. So the 5 unifying concepts of hard work, being eager, energetic, A, being aligned with your moral compass, with your plan, knowing why you're doing what you're doing day in, day out, not just sort of randomly spinning your wheels. There's a plan. R is being resolute. You're in it to win it. You're going to keep going. You're going to hit walls here and there, speed bumps, but you're going to get back and keep going. And T is thoughtfulness, which is kind of for me the last one to develop. It took me a while to figure out kind of why are you feeling what you're feeling? Why are the emotions that come up, feelings of insecurity, how you're perceived by others, all those things. That emotional intelligence is huge, and that comes later, I think, and that's why it comes later in the book. But I talk about all those 5 major themes throughout the book, through different areas of my life, and kind of how I learned from it, and how it helped me get to where I am today. But I think really it's because it's, again, boils down to the heart. The heart never stops beating. When your heart stops beating, you're dead, right? So in much the same way, our development, our story never finishes. We're never a finished product. We're always a work in progress. We're always beating. We're always working. We're always improving. That's the other sort of take home from the book as well.
That's beautiful. And I love that framework, HEART. That's awesome.
Thank
So
you.
who's the book for? Is it for someone who's looking into personal development for the first time? Is it for surgeons, doctors? Who would benefit from reading the book?
Honestly, of course, I'm biased, but I think it applies to anybody, all walks of life, young, older. Maybe you're already established in your career and you're looking for a little jolt, or you're still kind of trying to sort yourself out, figure things out. I think it's really for anybody. And I think especially in these trying times that we're in with COVID and, so many things that people took for granted. Certainty, right? People who, so many of us are addicted to certainty. I mean, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I have a steady job. all of a sudden you have this crazy thing that just upends everything, turns the whole world up on its head. And there's no such thing as a sure thing anymore, or job security. All that's just kind of gone by the wayside. So having emotional resilience, the ability to withstand these crazy curveballs that life can throw at you, I think is all the more important today. And I think my book does do that. I think my book talks about some of the things I've had to, deal with in my personal life and family life and tragedies, and have to bounce back. And I think in much the same way, I think my book can help other people, get through some tough times and come out on top.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And since we kind of, we're in the middle of, I like to think it's the recovery from the COVID year. People are being vaccinated. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost friends and family members. A lot of people got really sick. I know even I suffered for 3 to 4 weeks with the virus. Luckily at home, thank God I wasn't hospitalized or anything like that. But what do you have to say to those people who have been struggling, especially in this past year, not only mentally, not only through job security, but with health and all of these things? Going into 2021, what's the message here?
I think number one, stay positive. Don't get it's not hopeless. You have to stay positive. You have to always, again, keep moving, even if it's the littlest thing, but you're going to take some action, whatever it is, to whether it's making your bed every day. Navy SEALs, I forget which book you're talking about. You get up, you make your bed every day. You do something every day that's going to matter, that's going to inch your way, even if it is just an inch towards progress. So not to sort of use a cliche, but as bad as this year was, it's about to be over with. I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccinations are on the way. I mean, the scientific community has really come together in an unprecedented fashion to sort of, try to meet this thing head on and come up with a cure. I mean, human civilization has been through crazy stuff like this, famines and other, outbreaks of viruses in the past. And, we've managed through. It's just been a while, right? We don't remember those things. We're way, before our time. So, people before us have gone through worse and come out on the other side. So can we. So I think that's another thing. You got to stay positive, stay hopeful, and, just keep your head down and keep working.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year for everyone. It's affected everybody here differently, and I couldn't agree more. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel for anyone out there feeling hopeless, trapped. I see jobs coming back. The economy's recovering. Events are going to start coming back. So hang in there. Yeah. All right, Dr. Lima, my final question that I like to ask all of my business leaders and my mentors who come onto this show. As a business leader yourself, as a mentor, I'm sure you've found people along the way to help guide you, and you found resources along the way to help guide you. I know I have some of my favorites, and I know you have some of your favorites. Who are some people that you really look up to, influencers, gurus, and what are some top books that you've read over the years that you would recommend people pick up, other than Heart to Beat, of course?
Of course. Actually, it's a book that I read about 2 years ago is David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And that book, and I quote his book a couple of times, actually, in my book. And for those of you that don't know, David Goggins is this just, I don't know.
Toughest man on earth, is that what they call him?
Toughest man on earth. He's broken every record for distance running, and he's a Navy SEAL and an Army Ranger, and he's just unbelievable. And in his book, he talks about how the 40% rule, which is just when you think, you've reached your limit of what you could do physically, as far as level of exertion, you've reached your end, you still have you're only 40% of the way there. You're still so much more. It's all in your head. It's all these self-limiting ideas that we have about ourselves and what we can do and what we can't do. And that, for me, that book was just, my mind was just, it really just, because I found so many parallels in my own life. And when you hear someone sort of verbalize that and put it in, and I was like, okay, that's how that happened. And actually reading his book is in large part what helped inspire me to write my book. I had thought about it for a long time. I had talked about it, and I never actually did it. And so reading that book, I was like, okay, it's time to act. And so So I recommend that book for anybody. It's really, really inspirational.
I just wrote that one down. I'm familiar with David Goggins. I follow
Yeah.
him. Obviously he's on shows all the time. Super inspirational guy. So I agree with you and also recommend him to everybody.
Sure.
Anybody else on your list?
Um, the 10,000 hour rule, that whole concept, and that book, and I just can't remember the
Is
author.
that from a book? I think I know the 10,000 rule you're speaking. It takes 10,000 hours to create mastery of a subject or a skill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I
That to me also, when I read that, was game changer. Outliers is Malcolm Gladwell. Can't believe I forgot the name of that. So Outliers has been around for a while. I think it's been 15 years. But when you read that book, it also helps explain how some people are able to just be such overachievers, like several standard deviations, and you start to realize that it's hours, it's repetition. And that's another concept that helped me maintain my sanity. I had to train for a whole decade, right, to become a heart surgeon.
What does that come out
And
to in terms of hours? Have you ever counted them?
10,000 hours, actually. It takes about 10 years to accumulate that number of hours. So that's another thing where it's like, it's not that some person is more special than the other. It's who's willing to put in the time, the hours, the reps. It's all about the reps. And when you embrace that concept, that also helps, is an empowering idea to think about it, because the only thing that's separating you from mastery is the time that you put into it, the repetitions. And when you really fully embrace that idea, then you're like, oh, then I can do it too.
Yeah.
And when you start to say, I feel and believe that I can do it too, that's when the magic happens, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what it's all about, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a big rule with professional athletes and
Right.
CEOs. Absolutely. And it's funny, talking about David Goggins' 40% rule, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule. All of these frameworks are kind of, I don't want to say parallel, but all of these experts and thought leaders who are coming up with these amazing, impactful ideas. It's so quotable. It's so relatable. It gives you kind of something to shoot for and quantify, because that's how our brains work. And I think the more things like this people can get their hands on and really digest, it gives them tools. And these things are tools. Once you're running a race and you feel like you're tired, you're like, all right, 40% rule. I've still got 60% in the tank.
Sure.
Or you think you're an expert at something, and you're trying to become master, whether it's sports or business. Count your hours, see where you really stand. And what you're doing, HEART, it's a framework, and I think it could really help people if it's formulated in the right way and presented in the right way.
I agree. I can certainly speak to those other frameworks that have been instrumental for me in just helping me stay on track and believe in myself, and what I was doing and what I was capable of. So I think it's going to be different things for different people. Everyone's motivated by different things. But one thing I can say is, if it seems like it's too easy, then it probably is. There are no shortcuts. Anything really worth doing, something that's really going to make a difference, it's not going to be easy. And if that's what someone's selling you, then you need to look elsewhere, because there is no fast track for this. Success is earned, and you got to put in the time and the sweat and the years. So.
Yep. And I'll stand by that as well. And it helps to kind of surround yourself both digitally and physically with people who are hustling every day, grinding every day to achieve that level of success, because it shows in the habits. And these get rich quick schemes are targeted for people who are not surrounded by that. People who are, in this world, they know better. So my big piece of advice that I'm going to leave everybody with is surround yourself with people like Dr. Lima. Surround yourself with people who are high achievers, have good habits, are waking up early, are not getting drunk every day on the weekend, and that's going to take you a long way. So Dr. Lima, any final pieces of golden nuggets of advice that you can leave with everybody going into 2021 that is going to help them on their path to success and creating a better life for themselves and developing personally and all of the things that they want to achieve in the new year?
I think that as part of my daily ritual is, first and foremost, take every day as a blessing. You got to wake up and have that sense of gratitude that you're alive, you're healthy, you're able to actually put in some effort to make the most of that day. Don't take the day for granted. Make the most of it, and be grateful for what you have, for what you do have. Not bitter about what you don't have, or about what life, what blows life has dealt you. And I think if you stay grateful and you take every day like it was your last, and you make the most of it, you're already on the right track that most people are not on. So I think that's a good place to start for the next year after the turmoil and chaos we've all had to deal with this past year.
Yeah, what a roller coaster. All right, beautiful. Dr. Lima, for people who want to buy the Heart to Beat book, people who want to connect with you, hear more of you, where are the best places to do those things?
So the book is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold, and my website is and handle for social media, Instagram, is Brian Lima MD.
Beautiful. And I'll link all those things in the show notes here so you guys won't have to look far. And if you get Dr. Lima's book, or if you enjoyed this episode, please drop a screenshot, tag us on Instagram. I believe I'm already following you, Dr. Lima. So would love to share and stay connected. And for everybody listening, go connect with Dr. Lima. And thank you for coming to join us on another episode. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. And if you haven't already left a review, would really appreciate it. Dr. Lima, it was a blessing. Thank you for saving lives. Thank you for everything that you do, especially over this past year. I can only imagine what it's been like, going in with a mask every day, trying to keep not only yourself safe, but your patients safe in this crazy time. So, on behalf of everybody listening and, the whole business community, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again, and Happy New Year to everybody. It's going to be a great year. So keep your head up.
It's going to be an awesome year. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.